Welcome to episode 16 of my creative heart prompt journey, and this week it is all about wet into wet techniques where we use acrylic paint, acrylic ink, all the varieties of our acrylic medium in our art journal and on our canvas by adding lots and lots of water. You're not seeing my face this week because I have a little bit of an eye infection, so I'm just going to be showing you guys the work and not my face. So join me this week as I show you how to do wet into wet techniques and how you can possibly use it to take it to your art journal. So this is what we're going to create today in our art journal, so check it out. Hi, my name is Gideon. I'm also known as Gideon Slight. Welcome to my studio, and I'm your creatively fit coach. So join me now. Hi everyone, so using this week's prompt of wet into wet and creating flow on our papers or in our canvases, I'm going to try today to show you both on paper as well as on canvas what beautiful effects you can create with wet into wet techniques. And acrylic paint has the opportunity to almost look like watercolor if you use enough water. So my inspiration for today is this beautiful napkin that I saw in the stores this morning, and I just had to grab a pack of it because I'm quite enjoying playing with these beautiful works of art as a starting point. So I'm going to let this beautiful napkin's colors inspire me today as we create. So I've got some ordinary office paper that was cut-offs from photocopies that I've made, and like I say, I don't really throw anything away, so I wanted to just add or create more collage papers for myself to use in my art journal because I need a bit of variety to play with. So any creation or creative session that I can make use of papers that's lying around or whatever to create more interesting collage elements and content is always a fun way to begin to play and have some fun. So I want to show you with a variety of my acrylic mediums. I have acrylic inks here. I have heavy body acrylics. I have a bit more of a fluid acrylic. And I also have ordinary acrylic paint. So I want to show you guys while I'm playing what you can do in order to have that watercolor effect on your canvas. So without any further ado, I am going to just use these stack of papers and create small little elements for me to play with using my acrylics and lots of water. So I'll see you now. Paper can get quite flimsy and all curled up. It's not ideal for waterworks, but you know what, we're just going to play on it. It's not precious. So I'm going to use some clean water here and just give myself a bit of a water moment there on my page. And I'm going to come around with my CAD yellow I'm just going to drop it onto this page. While my brush is still wet, I can come and blend some of these zones together, almost like in watercolor. I actually wanted to play on watercolor paper, but I wanted some thinner paper that I can use as a collage element, and that's why I saw this printing paper and I thought, you know what, that's actually perfect just to play on. This is my process magenta, and obviously you can mix your inks into another container as well if you want to mix a very specific shade. But I sort of want the water and the paper to sort of be my mixing ground where I play on. I'm just going to splatter a little bit as well. Now I can always glaze over these once they dry to really tone them down because it's quite vibrant, and my target colors is definitely more on the muted side of grey and blue, but I don't want to overwork this little piece. Once I'm happy with it, I'm going to move on to another one and play with another medium and see what we get. So I'm just going to put this aside so that they can dry. Let's try another one. Wet into wet is the theme, so let's try a different color, and I'm going to try a different brush now as well. Let's start with our drawing ink in its purest form. This is Viridian Green, and I'm going to come in with a different kind of brush and just add some water to the mix and see what happens. I absolutely love these plumes that you can get from watercolor paint, so it's even more fun if you know you can actually make this happen with acrylic paint as well. And whereas with watercolor you might lose some of your intensity when it dries, your acrylic paints is definitely more vibrant, so that's excellent. Awesome. Wet into wet literally means let it flow, so we're using the water element of our paint and letting colors flow into one another. Let's add a bit of blue to this and see how that will influence the color, and let's play a little bit. This is turquoise, also from Robyn McClendon. Splattering in some water. It's wet into wet, so adding clean water will also move your pigment like it does with watercolor. So that might give you an interesting dappled effect. And you can also, you know, dab off some color if things are too bright or too intense, and you want to just remove a bit of water from your surface. Don't forget your handy dandy kitchen towel. And that can also give you another kind of texture and movement onto your little surface. Right, let's move on. So that was inks, and you can see that they can give you quite a bright result. I'm just going to close my ink bottles so I don't knock them over. Right, let's try let's mix this mauvey kind of color, and I'm going to mix here on my rub off page. I'm using Luca Studio Permanent Violet and Winsor & Newton Galleria Acrylic Cadmium Red Hue. Just a little bit of cat red, and that should give us a nice mauvey color that I see in these flowers. So I'm going to add a bit of water. That's nice, I like that. I'm going to bring this to the page. And now I'm going to add lots of water while it's wet. Wet into wet. That's the name of the game. I'm really treating my acrylic paint like a watercolor here, and really using a lot of water to move the paint around. And then I'll come in with some stronger paint and add a little bit of directionality to it. And this is on ordinary office printing paper, it's not watercolor paper. So this paper is not designed to hold a lot of water. So, you know, getting these results on this kind of paper is actually quite amazing, because it's just office printing paper. It's really nothing special. So I expected all of these wrinkles and everything. But you know what, sometimes it shows you can use anything that's around you to activate your creative heart and to just try something and play and experiment and just express yourself. It really, you know, there's a power to this that it's almost hard to explain to people that hasn't experienced it, in the sense of, you know, just allowing yourself to be and to play and just to try something with no serious expectations. Life has become so freaking complicated and overwhelming and demanding, and we can feel guilty for just playing a little bit. I mean, if you're not a professional artist that's working, you know, through their art to earn a living, then, you know, art is so therapeutic. It can be so cathartic. It can really, you know, open up new neuron pathways in our brain to see solutions where we haven't seen solutions before, you know. And it really builds character, and it helps us to become more patient and more resilient within ourselves. helps. I really think it provides us with an opportunity to practice, you know, so many things with ourselves, like patience and acceptance and self-love, self-care, self-worth. I'm going to use my CAD yellow ink here. Wow, I like it. Look at that. That is an excellent example of wet into wet and the flowy artifacts that you can get when working with lots of water in your medium and allowing the paint to almost do what it wants to do, and just offering the paint an opportunity to collide and to mix and to create something new. And that is, you know, magic. 5 seconds ago it looked like a, you know, 2-minute doodle by a 3-year-old, and the next minute, by just allowing the paint to do what it can do, there's something magical that just happened right in front of our eyes, and that is spectacular. That's what I live for. It's these little miracles that happen right in front of your eyes, and you know, all that you were involved in is maybe just, you know, allowing the brush and the paint to touch the paper. You see what I mean? So I'm going to leave this little gem to dry. Right, I've got my canvas here. Just want to make sure it's nice in the shot. So I'm thinking of using wet into wet technique now. I'm going to be playing with this napkin on this canvas, so staying with that as my sort of inspiration. I think this canvas has just been unpackaged. It says it's been geishoed, but it is a very chalky geisho, and that suits me because I really want to have a bit of a watercolor effect here. So I don't want, do I want hard lines? It doesn't really matter, it's all gonna get covered up later, but some of this might shine through. So I'm just going to go ahead and give my canvas a good spritz of water to activate it. And then I'm going to use my mop brush here. And I'm going to use my heavy body orange and just come in and create an interesting shape. And I could even add more water. Gonna rinse off and just come in with clean water to dilute this even more. And I'm just going to use the water on the canvas now to move the paint. So I think the only negative about using acrylic paint and wet into wet techniques is you are going to have to be really patient for this layer to dry before you are able to move on to something else. So just be mindful of that. I'm going to bring in some of this mauve acrylic ink and just splatter it here on the side and maybe up there a little bit. And I'm just going to put some water around it and encourage more blooms to form. So you see, you can get into sort of flow art. This is another form of flow art to what is very popular right now in the world, with flow acrylics. And obviously this doesn't have that full-bodied kind of vibe as flow acrylics would have, but it gives you a momentarily satisfaction of, you know, seeing a wet into wet technique happening on your canvas, and that's always fun to play with. So get out your canvas, get out your papers, and you know, let the paint flow. And don't forget to take a photograph and share your flow art wet into wet technique with us on our Creative Heart group. We are happy to have you there with us, and we're happy to support you on your creative journey. So I'm going to continue to play with this on my canvas, and I will share with you guys a little bit later what I've done with it. So I'm going to get into my art journal now, because I'm very excited to use those little papers in some kind of installation in my art journal. So I'll speak to you guys just now. Right, it is art journal time. This is always so exciting to get to the art journal. So I've opened my art journal on a page. I have previously activated this page with a little paper that I did a monoprint on and played with some marks and inks. This is just one of my little wax papers to protect that. So I'm going to be focusing on this page in my journal. But before I continued, I wanted to show you how beautifully my canvas is dried. And you can really see the beautiful watercolor effects that we achieved on our canvas using acrylic paint and water. So this wet into wet technique was really beautiful, and I can't wait to play on this canvas a bit later. But that is one of my art studio projects. So let me get into my art journal. Let's get into creating a page in our art journal, and we're going to keep the same attitude of playful curiosity to see what we could create, bringing some of these elements together. So I wanted to show you guys how these ones dried as well, and you can see they're nice and crumbly and wrinkly and whatever, but we have this beautiful pure color. And these little pages can also then initiate a page in my canvas, which I really like. So I'm thinking, you know what, my art journal is very beige, and we're seeing these white paper can be a bit of a contrast. So I wanted to just quickly show you guys what I do with them. And this is something I learned from Robyn McClendon. Check out her channel. She is absolutely an amazing multimedia collage artist that really taught me a lot about art journaling and collage, and continue to learn from her. So check out her channel. I will also provide a link to her channel, because I think it's absolutely worth giving a shout out to her and her work on her channel. So in all honor of Robyn, she loves to use a coffee stain in order to change the paper from white to a little bit more off-white. So in this spray bottle, I've mixed some instant coffee, and I've added a drop of alcohol to it so that it doesn't go all moldy on me. And then when I have a white paper like this, I can just stain it with a bit of my coffee spray, and that will immediately change the white paper to a little bit more of an older, old world kind of stained paper, which is already more interesting than just a white paper. So I'm going to put that aside, and we'll come back to playing with that another time, because I already prepared that little flower of mine. I already gave it a bit of a coffee stain. So I'm going to activate my page in my art journal using this little piece of paper. So we're going to immediately go to that, and I definitely also want to use this tissue paper like promised earlier. So I wanted to show you guys just quickly a little bit of a trick that you might not know if you get into collage and working with napkins. When you get your napkins unfolded, I want you just to make sure, maybe the pack will tell you if it's 1 or 2 layers, but most of these printed ones have a backing of 2 transparent white layers, and you need to pull that off, otherwise your collage will be very thick and it will look like you've worked with tissue. So there's layer number 1, there's layer number 2. Pull both of those layers off. Now don't throw this away, because I like to use these as white in my collage papers or as a tissue, whatever comes first. So now you have the actual print of your tissue paper that you can use, and I'll just use just an ordinary brush like this with some water on it to just wet a piece, and then it tears a lot easier. So we'll show you how to do that just now. But getting into this page, I'm just going to glue this little piece down just as it is. Although, you know what, I don't need that hard edge on there. It always looks a little bit more interesting if there's a little bit of a paper's edge. So we can get rid of that. But I was interested to see what this flower will look like if you know, maybe a piece of this goes over it. And because I know the tissue paper, once it's got some acrylic medium on it, it's quite see-through, it will push that big flower a little bit more towards the background, and bringing some of this finer details to the foreground. But we'll see just now. For now, I quite like this page up here, and I've also brought some other colored tissues to play with today, and I also have another bag of materials that I created previously. I shared on my Facebook group that I created these doodles on watercolor paper, so they might be interesting elements to add to our design, seeing that we have a floral theme here, flow into flow. So without any further ado, let's get this baby glued to our surface. I always say it really doesn't matter, it's all about fun and play. There's no right or wrong. We are just going to play in our art journals, and one way to get started is just to start, to activate the page and to see where it takes you. So I'm going to put it on the side here so that I don't have to trim any excess off. I'm going to take my wedge and just really get this piece of paper flat and down on my page, so that there's no air bubbles or unnecessary texture. There we go. And the one thing I like about using just ordinary stick glue like this on pages is the collage process is a bit faster. But when you get to tissue paper like this, you need a very, very soft glue stick, and I don't have that. So yeah, that will be a different experience. But I will always use my acrylic medium, because that never lets me down. Let me see first if we bring some of this pink in. I'm just going to work here so you can see what I do. I just want to sort of play with flower shapes. So I'm just using ordinary water on my brush, and I'm just going to draw in some basic flower shapes, almost the same size as the little drawing that I made. And because that is wet, that simply tears away. Because you do want to sort of have a bit of an interesting shape to play with. So let's see. There we go. We already have a nice little shape like that. And we might even, you know, let's take this piece of wax paper away. It might even be fun to incorporate both pages and just allow the story to continue over the other page. So I'm going to continue to make little shapes like that out of my tissues and just get that down, and then we'll take it from there. And there you have it. This is a whimsical, playful, beautiful art installation in my art journal. It's still a little bit wet, so I'm just going to allow these pages to dry, and there might be an element or two that I might add in order to integrate the final layers a little bit more, but you get the idea of how you can play with various elements in your art journal. And this week specifically, most of these elements were created with wet into wet paint techniques. So see how the paint flows. I'm looking forward to spending more time with you guys again next week. Until then, bye bye for now.